Living on a continent where just a 3-hour drive can take you to another country with a different language, Europeans have always prided themselves on their diversity until they come to America. Here they walked for 3 hours and realized they were still standing and looking at a single stone. God did not tame America, He left it wild. And it is that unrefined wildness that causes millions of European tourists each year to fall into a strange psychological syndrome, a mix of awe and envy. We will decode the 10 states with the most spectacular landscapes where the concept of beauty has been redefined in the dictionary of the old continent. A candid, unflinching look at how America conquers even the most conservative minds. Right now, let's move to the 10th position where people don't use meters or miles to measure, but use survival to feel. Let's start with a simple mathematical fact. If you lifted the entire beautiful United Kingdom and dropped it into the Grand Canyon, this wonder would still have enough room to fit a few more European countries and hold a friendly football match. For travelers from across the Atlantic who are accustomed to a continent where everything is just right, tamed, and meticulously planned, Arizona throws a completely alien concept straight into their faces: infinity. More than 5 million Europeans fly here each year, bringing with them the confidence of those who possess an ancient civilization, only to immediately realize that their frame of reference for space and distance is completely distorted. In Switzerland or Italy, after 2 hours of walking, you would have passed through an ancient village, heard the church bells, and smelled the aroma of espresso. But in Arizona, after 2 hours of walking under the scorching sun, you suddenly realize you are still standing, looking at a single rock from a different angle. It's not just a beautiful view, it's a sweet punishment for outdated prejudices. The helplessness of language was evident on the bewildered faces of the French and German friends as they faced a desert that could change temperature by up to 40 degrees Fahrenheit in just a few short hours. A harsh survival mechanism for which the EU's administrative system had no provisions to prepare. The French, known for their love of debating existential philosophy in romantic cafes along the Seine River, find all complex theories vanish when standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon's abyss. The only survival philosophy left in their minds is don't miss a step. Do you think that the grandeur of nature is the only thing that can make an arrogant European nobleman fall silent? Please leave a comment if you've ever seen a foreign tourist bewildered by the vastness of our country. Our America does not need artificial castles to prove its status, for this millions-of-old sandstone is the most solid fortress. But don't be quick to think that America only has barren spaces that know how to intimidate people. Arizona has only left them stunned by the scale of its shallow canyons, while the next state on the list is quietly preparing a more brutal scenario where beauty does not lie in the silent rock formations, but in a gigantic beast simmering just beneath the surface. Imagine a foggy morning at Yellowstone. Sulfur smoke rises from the cracks in the Earth's crust. The ground beneath your feet gently trembles with the rhythm of the geological layers breathing. And right in front of the windshield, a herd of wild bison, each weighing 2,000 pounds, leisurely blocks the small rental car of a German tourist family. No protective fences, no zookeepers on guard, just a breathtaking confrontation between modern civilization and the primal forces of nature. For Europeans, this is a real culture shock because they are used to neatly planned and meticulously trimmed forests like the public parks in Bavaria or Yorkshire in Wyoming, one of the least densely populated areas in the United States. These educated guests suddenly realize a harsh truth. North American nature is completely indifferent to EU safety standards or administrative decrees. America has chosen to preserve the most original and ruthless aspects of nature, turning this state into a living museum where humans must yield to wildlife if they want to survive. Their astonishment quickly turned into a more complex emotion, a mix of awe and a slight shiver when flipping through geological data. Yellowstone is not just a park. It is a massive supervolcano, holding up to 60% of the world's geyser activity. It is ironic that those who consider themselves the most civilized and rational people in the world are willing to spend up to $5,000 on a plane ticket just to come here to stand and admire a piece of land that has enough energy to explode and wipe out half of the life on this planet at any moment. The allure of Wyoming lies precisely in the fragile boundary between breathtaking beauty and brutal destruction. In your opinion, is it better to keep nature completely wild as the Americans are doing, or to tame it for the safety of humans? Please leave your perspective in the comments section below. It is the rugged and unforgiving nature of this land that teaches the proud minds a lesson in humility tranquility that no book can provide. Leaving behind the land of boiling rivers and herds of tons of beasts, we will continue our journey to a place that Europeans always thought they knew everything about through classic Hollywood films, until they actually take the wheel themselves and face a cinematic illusion made of flesh and blood. On the TripAdvisor forum, a British tourist left a perplexed comment after visiting Monument Valley. I set foot in Monument Valley and suddenly felt like a criminal trespassing into a John Wayne movie. The shock that Utah gives to European visitors is not simply a visual overwhelm, but it strikes directly at the structure of their behavioral psychology. Europeans who grew up in spaces surrounded by historical stone structures shaped by humans, where every square meter bears the marks of past conflicts or ancient dynasties. But when faced with Utah, they are thrown into a completely different reality: the direct confrontation between human history and Earth's history. At Bryce Canyon National Park, the vibrant orange-red hoodoo rock formations have been meticulously sculpted by wind, snow, and time over the past 40 million years. Standing at an elevation of over 8,000 feet above sea level, where the terrain slope and air pressure change so abruptly that tourists' smartwatches constantly issue health warnings, they are forced to reconsider their own finitude. There is a deep irony here. Europeans can spend their entire lives spending billions of euros restoring and preserving the crumbling walls from ancient Rome. Meanwhile, Utah possesses gigantic natural sandcastles that make the Roman Colosseum look like an unfinished Lego project by a child. The greatness of Utah lies in its ability to turn the biases of the most conservative into dust, forcing them to acknowledge that there are forms of art that do not require the hands of humanity. Is this the reason why the American West has always been the ultimate destination for souls yearning for primal freedom? What do you think about this contrast? Do you believe that human constructions, which have lasted for thousands of years, can truly outlast nature? Please leave your comments below. The pride of the mainland has been shattered before the arid sandstone fortresses of Utah. However, if the barren rocks here have only left them bewildered in terms of geological time, the next state on the list will douse their pride with a literal bucket of cold water, a symphony of extreme terrain where the boundary between ice and fire is just a few hours' drive apart. Imagine a scenario where you can ski in the morning at the icy peaks of Lake Tahoe, surf in the afternoon at the sun-drenched beaches of Malibu, and when night falls, you peacefully drift into sleep in the hottest place on Earth, the Death Valley. For a European traveler, this scenario sounds more like a fictional science fiction story than a realistic day-rip itinerary. What astonishes Europeans in California is the suffocating compression of geographical extremes and biodiversity within the boundaries of a single state. With an area larger than the entire country of Germany, California is a devastating blow that completely shatters the geographical mindset of the people from the old continent who are used to driving through 3 countries in just one afternoon. Their astonishment reached its peak when standing beneath the canopy of ancient sequoia trees in Yosemite. These green giants have stood silently there for over 3,000 years, witnessing the rise, fall, and eventual disappearance into the sands of history of the mightiest empires of Europe. Look at the telling numbers to see the impotence of the human scale. The legendary General Sherman tree weighs up to 200 tons. The Italians always take pride in the Leaning Tower of Pisa, or their magnificent Renaissance architectural works, but an ironic truth is that just one large branch of the ancient sequoia here is heavy enough to crush the entire ancient square of Rome. It is the grandeur mixed with the arrogant calculations of nature that has turned California into the ultimate symbol of the American dream, where nature does not accept any compromises. Do you agree that the extreme diversity of California is something that no European country can replicate? Please share your experience if you have ever traveled from the snowy regions to the desert of this state in the comments. America has shown the world that they possess all the greatest extremes of the earth on the same vast stretch of Pacific coastline. However, Golden State, despite having everything, still lacks a specialty that ocean-crossing souls always yearn for: absolute solitude and complete separation from modern civilization. To find that illusory, isolated paradise, one must fly over 2,000 more miles across the vast ocean. A French travel blogger once left a profound comment on their personal page after a journey across the Pacific. "I came to Hawaii seeking an American version of the Mediterranean, but what I found was a completely different planet being born from fire. This confession accurately reveals the analytical axis that leaves European visitors bewildered in Hawaii, the collapse of an illusion of a tranquil colonial resort island of the old style. Europeans who take pride in the luxurious, orderly beaches of the Riviera, surrounded by ancient towns in southern Europe. However, when faced with the Narpoli coast in Kauai, they are overwhelmed by the sheer treacherous cliffs that are lushly green in a wild manner, where nature is asserting its absolute power without any trace of human taming. The real shock that transforms Hawaii from a scenic spot into an astonishing geological lesson lies in its tectonic nature. Europeans realize that this land is not just about luxury resorts or performance hula dances. It is a mechanical battlefield where volcanic flows are still erupting, continuously cooling lava to expand America's territory by square meters each day. Look at the colossal structure of Mauna Kea to see the insignificance of all the peaks of the old continent. If measured from the base of the mountain deep beneath the ocean floor to the summit, Mauna Kea rises to over 33,000 feet, surpassing even the famous peak of Everest by nearly 4,000 feet. There is a delightful irony here. Europeans always thought they owned the most exquisite royal resort beaches in the world until they realized their beaches had been shaped over millennia rather than growing from the fiery lava flows crawling right beneath their feet like on this emerald island. It is the relentless proliferation of this volcanic island that has redefined the concept of life in the eyes of the most conservative travelers. What do you think about this magnificent tectonic power of Hawaii? Does the pristine beauty of the Pacific truly overshadow the romantic beaches of Europe? Please leave your comments so we can discuss together. The pride of the souls of the old continent has completely melted before the volcanic fire of Hawaii. However, if this dazzling tropical paradise has only amazed them with the rise of the land, the next state on the list will take them back to the mainland, to a space where people do not come to admire the colors, but to experience a luxury long gone from Europe. A spine-chilling solitude under an endless sky. Imagine a straight asphalt road stretching endlessly to the horizon, where not a single soul, not a single house, only a gigantic dome of sky surrounds as if wanting to swallow your tiny car at Glacier National Park. Europeans refer to Montana with the respectful name Big Sky Country, but what truly astonishes them here is not the mountains, but a luxury that has disappeared from their continent for many centuries.